Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December 9th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. Roll call, we got Hema.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Gesme, I'm here. Fox.
Here.
Novak.
Here.
Everyone's here for now. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Johnson, second by Hema to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from October 21st.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's your
Mo-
turn.
What?
It's your turn.
Go ahead.
Motion by Novak.
No, Bob.
Motion by Chris. Second by Jesse to approve the minutes of October 21st, 2024. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No one signed up for public input tonight, so we'll just move on to our first public hearing. Ordinance amending Cannon Falls City Code relating to the zoning of cannabis. Zach, you want to get us going?
Yeah, so good evening, guys. The first discussion item involves the implementation of cannabis and cannabis-related businesses within the city limits. Before we discuss, I think it's important to note that all licensing has been delegated to Goodhue County. So the only thing that we're discussing is the zoning. There's only going to be 4 retail cannabis businesses or dispensaries allowed in Goodhue County. So Cannon Falls might not even have one, but I think it's still imperative that we have something in place in case we do. So please look at the proposed ordinance in your packet, which defines the types of cannabis businesses and where they are zoned for each city or for each use.
Okay, thanks, Zach. So with that, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the city code relating to the zoning of cannabis, this is when you do it. Second call, anyone wishing to address the zoning? Third and last call, anyone wishing to address the zoning of cannabis in Cannon Falls? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Committee.
Question. Is all the cultivation done in enclosed buildings or is it outside? If it's in the city.
Looks like so. Let's see.
I think it's yes. Inside and out. In and out.
Gotcha.
I'm just going to review the definition real quick, but unless our attorney has anything to say, I don't know if it specifies.
Doesn't specify?
All of the definitions they're our own definitions, but they're taken from this county who took them from the state. So it's all kind of one cohesive.
Think it's a fair question.
It doesn't address that as far as, it addresses cultivation, but it doesn't address indoor or outdoor.
And I guess the question is, does it matter?
Well, it might matter to the residents if there's,
A cannabis field in their backyard?
yeah.
Might have a lot more visitation.
Maybe in the middle of the night. Just something to think about.
It's always amenable. I mean, we can add something to that if you guys
Okay.
see fit to make so everything's enclosed or have special screening as well.
But it's only in the industrial.
I know it's gonna only be industrial, but,
Yeah.
See, Zach, I got a question. I think you already answered it with where you derive this from, but is there a specific reason why we don't consider cannabis manufacturing in a B1, B2, or I1 zone? Because I'm just looking at our city map, and those seem like appropriate places to do it, especially if they're not doing the cultivation there.
Yeah, we kind of just reserved all, anytime you're gonna turn dry cannabis into, like when you're actually manufacturing it, growing it, that sort of thing's all just I1, or I2, excuse me. But we just thought it was best that all the retail was, you know, strictly in the B1, B2, but, you know, if you move the manufacturing, if that's something you guys would want to entertain.
I mean, I'm just curious, like right now, like a B2 business zone, generally speaking, like Highway 52, you got all those buildings down there, they do manufacturing and stuff like that. You know, to me, it kind of, in my head, it makes sense, like, you know, if you're not doing the cultivation or the growing there, and it's all done inside your warehouse, I guess I don't really care, personal opinion, so. And same thing with like Canon Equipment zoned as I1, Amesbury, stuff like that, those are all I1, they all manufacture there, so it's just kind of something to think about. Perhaps unless there's some sort of smell that it's associated with manufacturing it, I don't know why we'd have an issue with it. But
Good.
So, and then for home occupations, see, now that would be in a different zone too, correct? That would be the,
It's not allowed there though, is it?
I don't think do we allow it? Yeah.
No. That was just a definition, it's not allowed there.
well, alrighty then. How did I miss that?
There's a lot here.
Zach gives us lots of information.
I mean, it just seems, I guess just to further my point, the permitted uses for B1 and B2, cannabis retail, cannabis delivery service, cannabis wholesaler, cannabis transporter, lower potency hemp edible retailer. I guess I see manufacturing could be lumped into those groups. B2, B1, or I1, I don't.
Isn't that?
So that's on page 4 are the permitted uses for B1 and B2.
So you'd like to include the retail portion in,
No, the retail
I2?
portions are already in B1, B2. I guess I'm
Correct.
saying manufacturing's not in B1, B2. And then I guess more so, why is I1 not defined at all? We don't have anything defined for I1, but
There isn't many I1 zones anyway, but we can
yeah.
sure add something. That's,
I guess I'm not hell bent either way. I just kind of, it's just a question. I
just a
had.
question, sure.
Yeah.
So you're saying, Chris, to add manufacturing and cannabis, low potency hemp to B1, B2 in addition to the other things?
I guess more so B2, the more, I guess, now that I look at it, because that's just along Highway 52 there, pretty much, south end of town.
Zach, was there some reason, or was this like a state thing or county thing, or are the manufacturing licenses by Goodhue County also going to be limited, or are they going to be more general?
Let's see here. The only thing that I guess that Goodhue limits is the dispensary, so the actual retail is gonna be, but they don't, I don't see anything in there. They have a guide that they put out, and I don't see anything where it references that. No.
Chris, do you want to add it now or wait and see if there's any need for it?
When would it come up? When would it come up? Would it be a business coming to us saying they've identified a spot there and they want to
I guess.
amend it? Yeah. We can wait. I mean, it's just one of those things. I guess we took this language from someone else, so it'll work.
Are there smells involved with the manufacturing process? See, we run into that problem before.
And just for people, I'm looking at the map, and the only B2 that's next to housing, I guess, is more so over by Super America and stuff like that group of housing there. But
Down in the,
yeah, yeah.
I think the main reason why we just kept it in the I-2 is because we wanted to keep manufacturing as far away from any residential. You know, everything is new to us as well to everybody else.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going to happen. Will it smell? We don't know that answer. What kind of activity is it going to be? So I think what we tried to do in this very first ordinance is to get it as far away from everything, allow it, right, because we have to allow it, but keep it as far away from everything that's residential. I don't know, is it going to be, you could put one right beside the dress shop then, right? So I think what we planned on doing there is to keep it separate. Because we talked a lot about the mezzo business, which is a combination of things. And we had, I forgot your name, I'm sorry, Nick. We had him work on trying to get that separated also, because that would have allowed it downtown, and we just didn't think that was right for the first ordinance that we have to get put together. We can always change it, you're absolutely right, but we're working on this very first. If we end up having a license in town, we'll know what it's all about. And this is so fresh that I don't know if the state's going to be ready for it or not. But we're really leaning on the side of precaution. So.
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, I think the reason manufacturing wasn't allowed in the B1 or B2 is if you look at the definition, it references the cannabis mezzo business. I don't think we have a definition of that, but according to the state, you're allowed to cultivate, not just manufacture, you're allowed to cultivate as well. So like Neil said, I guess it's just being as safe as possible just to make sure anything, but
I'd like to point out that under the cannabis business section, you've got section 152.422, the buffer zone, that talks about you can't have it within 1,000 feet of a school, and then the 500 feet from a daycare and athletic field. Now, I don't know exactly my distances downtown, but we've got an athletic field downtown.
Right.
And we also have a daycare business downtown.
Correct.
So that's gonna make things,
Them numbers are state law.
okay,
They're coming out of the
All right.
state books.
yep,
We just brought them back down to local level.
okay.
but I don't think we would be in trouble there, would we?
No, I'm just saying that if anybody thinks they wanna put one downtown,
Oh, I see.
the whole idea of throwing it in a B1 down there may not be actually feasibly possible with that distance. Because on one side of the road, you've got a daycare center there right behind the bank, and then on the other side of the road, you've got the athletic field.
And if they're running 24/7, you've got lighting and stuff too.
So,
I think there's provisions for that somewhere in here too.
What's that?
Any other questions or comments?
I'm gonna say thank you, Zach. Ready to move it, or? Well, then I move that we forward for approval to city council, the ordinance amending our code relating to zoning of cannabis.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Nobach to amend the Cannon Falls City Code regarding zoning related to cannabis businesses. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, up next is a public hearing. Ordinance amending Cannon Falls City Code relating to the Cannon Valley Fair. Zach, you want to give us a brief description of that before I open the public hearing?
Yeah, not a problem. So second discussion items involves a ordinance relating to the Cannon Valley Fair. What is being proposed is a rezone of the Cannon Valley Fair property to a new zone called a fair zone. And then there would be a list of permitted, interim, and prohibited uses that will kind of dictate what can go on in this new zone. So, please take a little bit to review it, and if you do wish to make any additions, feel free to remove or add anything you guys see fit.
With that, I'm going to open the public hearing regarding the ordinance amending Cannon Falls City Code related to the Cannon Valley Fair. Public hearing is open. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name, your address, and we're limiting you to 3 minutes.
good evening. Furla Miller, 1016 Minnesota Street West, the president of the Cannon Valley Fair Board. Figure I'll come up first. Couple of things. We looked at the proposal here. Couple things our attorney looked at. We talked about, kind of got put on us pretty fast here, so we've been working on it for the last hour. But a couple things. If you look at 152.021 definitions, Cannon Valley Fair, the proposed definition does not include racing events. That would be during the fair. 152.021. It is on the first page of that. I'll try to get through this in 3 minutes, but there's a lot here, so. But that, originally this was all about the cart track, and that's what we know there is an issue. We respect there's an issue, and we want to address the issue. But now we're talking about fair stuff here. That would restrict us doing an event during the fair, whether it be a race, cart track, or whatever. Move on, so I can keep trying to stay within my time limit. Cart, under that same thing, if you go down there, cart definition needs to be changed to raise the engine CC. The ones we're talking about is the micro sprint. That's a 600 cc. That's the biggest issue. That's the problem that everybody has.
we're good with eliminating them right now. That's not what we're trying to keep. We're gonna respect the idea of keeping the noise down, but this doesn't address all the other classes that there's not a problem with. Second thing, Fairgrounds definition omits 3 parcels that are owned by the Cannon Valley Fair Association. Just trying to know if this is intentional or a mistake, but there's 3 parcels that would be missed out on this zoning change. The parcels admitted are 521-2000040, 521-2000010, 521-004230. And the definition lists 3 parcels that are owned by the Cannon Valley Fair Association, and the parcel numbers are incorrect. Probably just a clerical error, it's fine, it's not the end of the world, but it would need to be changed to have the correct number. It does say, well, the correct number should be the 521-8000030, and I believe there's an extra 0 in the one in here. The next one would be 525-4000030 and 525-000290. I think it's just a clerical error. And I will give you guys this here, what I got for proposal. I just don't have copies. This is the stuff we worked on, so you could look through it too. Microsprint definition needs to be changed to increase the engine CC, because the microsprint you have in there is 210 cc, and it should be their 600 cc, and that's the one that's got the issue, and we're missing out on the other classes. Under 152.828, permitted uses, D, what permit would we be issued for that one, is the question we have. Under the D for the, and then under E, will the city expand this to include other neighborhood focuses, organizations, or nonprofits such as Bridge Riders, because they do an event up there, they're a nonprofit organization. Just as an example, under F, the demolition derbies are not held on the exact holiday date and are usually a full weekend. Can this be generalized to simply allow 2 weekends? One in the fall, one in the spring. Under 152.829, permitted accessory use. E, is this subject to state licensing and permit requirements? Under 152.830, interim use. A3, not feasible to require vehicle/equipment, including carts, trailers, RVs, to be removed daily. Under A4, can this be changed to just require the submitted schedule to have the date and time? It's not feasible to know the number of vehicles by April 1st. We never know how many vehicles are gonna, you could have 20 people racing, you could have 60 people showing up to race. A7, can this be expanded to 12 months? A10, request that the entire section be removed if this pose of this is for light and sound. Those are addressed in A8 and 9. The Fair Association has parcels that are residential, so this would require screening between their own parcels. B3, not feasible to require vehicles equipped, including carts, trailers, RVs, to remove daily. B4, can this be changed to just require the submitted schedule to have date and time? It's not feasible to know the number of vehicles. B7, can this be expanded to 12 months? B10, request this entire section be removed. The proposed of this is for light and sound. Those are addressed in A8 and 9. The Fair Association has parcels, again, with our residential. And then under 152.840, prohibited uses. A, request this be removed. Camping has been offered for special events for years. And then B, conflicts with 152.830A3, removal required for racing events. When this was all coming, I mean, we know the cart track's the issue. We're addressing the fair. We want to work with everybody. We want to get this done. We want to make it work for the people who are against it. We respect the people who are against it. We're trying to make it all work. We'll quiet it up, but now we're going after the fair too. And if we can't do this other stuff outside the fair that we've done forever, the fair's not gonna be here. I mean, that's just the facts. We gotta be able to do this stuff. I get the cart track. We're willing to work that, but some of this other restrictions are gonna hurt the fair bad.
Has the board seen all of this?
We didn't even get this until 3 o'clock this afternoon. Nobody has seen
Okay,
this.
so how would you think the best way to resolve all these requests be? Would it be to have the board review all this and give us their requests in writing so we could look at it and see it again?
I will give you this request. Yes, I feel that it's still a board
Not
thing.
today's request, but,
We don't meet till Monday, next Monday.
so you anticipate more changes, or requesting more changes.
This, I think, is the biggest part right now.
So until we know what those requests are, we really can't do anything.
I agree with you. And that's
That's my
kind of
question.
where we sit. I really want this to work. I respect all these people. They're my neighbors, but it's gotta be, if it's the cart track, let's address the cart track and get the fairgrounds where it needs to be. That's our biggest thing.
How would you like to do that? Would you like to put all this in writing and have all the board members sign those requests for change, or requests?
It doesn't need,
Whatever you wanna call 'em.
it doesn't take the whole board. All it takes is myself.
Yeah, but wouldn't you
vice
want
president.
all of them to
They should
agree?
know about it, see it, and
So you-
approve it. I mean, if they want all their signatures, we can get that on there, or the majority of them on there. We're good with that, whatever you guys would want, but,
Because then, that way we wouldn't have any surprises later, if everybody's
100%.
on board with you.
right.
Is that,
Let me,
yeah, that's just a thought.
I thought at the at the last city council meeting that we asked the lawyer for the fair board and the city attorney to be part of this negotiated, which I thought then this came from the two attorneys. Am I mistaken with that assumption?
Commissioner Johnson, no. What has transpired, and we're right at where we need to be for where we are in this process. What's transpired is after the council meeting, I exchanged emails with counsel for the Fair Association to get an understanding of the negotiations, the type of resolution all parties could live with. And as discussed, the idea was to present a new zone, authorize permitted uses within the zone, and have a permitting process for the racing. So when I exchanged information with the Fair Association attorney, I wanted clarification on what did the Fair Association consider to be the fair uses. What do they do out there year-round and during the fair? So that's why you got a structure of an ordinance that is, and I think a lot of your points are valid, and this is the process to talk
Yeah.
through that, is to ensure that we have the fair defined to encapsulate what they do during those few days every year annually in early July. And to the extent that, you need to add racing events, if, that's one of the things that didn't cross our minds when we drafted this for your review. The idea was then to have these other uses that they wanted to do all year round. So we were not overly restrictive in terms of they're going to do other stuff. They want to have, gatherings and things of that nature. And so that information came from their lawyers, was put together. The timing on this has been very short. So we put all that together in the draft form, kind of accumulating everything to this point together. Then get to the public hearing stage where we hear not only from the Fair Association in their process, but also from the residents to include their comments in the discussion.
So their attorney hasn't reviewed this,
Their attorney got it today as well.
not before today.
Not before today, no. No.
Just wanted that clarification, thank you. More public input?
Yeah, I was just curious, I mean, before we interact, should we do more input?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we're supposed to be, and I
Yeah.
didn't
Move
mean
on.
to
I
interrupt.
just, if you have any questions.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
A few questions. More so than comments. I'm Jody Montgomery at 109 Haven Heights Court. There's a few things I just want clarified, that it's kind of been kind of a shady area or cloudy area. First of all, my questions are geared more around the racetrack. First of all, my understanding is, I want to know who actually owns the racetrack. Is it the fair or is it Cannon River?
The Cannon Valley Fair owns it.
The fair owns it. So then does Cannon River Raceway rent from you?
Any event that's run at the fair, whether it's during the fair or this, the fair does not run the event. We always hire promoters to run the events for us.
So like Cannon River Raceway.
Is a hired guy.
So do they rent the facility from you then?
Yes, that's how we get money.
Okay, so they rent. And we've been all concerned about the noise ordinance and everything regarding the fair. But Cannon River Raceway is an LLC. They're its own business, renting on the fairgrounds. So wouldn't they have to be subject to these noise ordinances and all the Minnesota state ordinances? That to me is kind of cloudy because it seems like everybody's focusing on the fair, that they're exempt, that they don't have to worry about it. But if a business is renting on that property, that business still has to follow their own rules. And they're an LLC, so they would have to follow the rules and regulations of an LLC, not an agricultural fair or agricultural association. So I was just wondering if they're subject to those same ordinances that the residents are all complaining about. And then I guess in the last thing I had a question on is what Ferlin was just talking about. When you say you want it open up for a 12-month period, does that mean that there's going to be races year-round? That there's going to be noise year-round? That would be my next question, is a little more clarification on what that 12-month period would mean. Because we already get the noise already from the races. And that was all I wanted.
Thanks, Jody.
Hi, I'm Erin McMahon, Hoffman Street. First of all, I think it's kind of ironic that we're going to afford the fair extra time because last May, we didn't get any extra time and the noise just started right up without any input from citizens. So that's a problem. I don't think the zoning should be changed. If you change the zoning, that's going to put the fair on an island, and if they want a text amendment, they're going to get a text amendment from a city council who's willing to do it. So no to the zoning amendment. With respect to them not having a preview, it was published in the Beacon that anybody who wanted to could go down and review the information related to the track, which I did last Monday. I knew what they were going to, the zoning they were going to call it. They were going to call it the fair zoning. I knew they were going to try to get in 12 months. which is ridiculous. And you know what that tells you, don't you? That means that they're going to start racing snowmobiles. Who knows? Maybe they're going to start racing drones. Not 12 months. And the fact that this draft is talking about car types, it should be referencing the state of Minnesota zoning ordinances for noise, which is why this is illegal in the first place. I'm glad Ferlin brought up the plat numbers. I didn't have one of them. I didn't have the 00101. You know that they haven't been paid, this organization has not paid taxes. My guess is they have not paid taxes because they think they're an ag society. Because if you're a 5013C and you're a not-for-profit, you have to file, what is it called? You must apply for an exemption. You must apply, it's an assessment review, and they have to apply for that every 3 years. So perhaps we could collect some back taxes to pay our attorney for all this ridiculousness that's gone on this past year. Finally, if this zoning ordinance does get changed and we're starting at square one again, like the mayor referenced at the last council meeting, and hopefully that doesn't happen, in less than 72 hours, we were able to get over 100 signatures so we can apply for a discretionary petition for an environmental assessment worksheet, which is going to be a very time-consuming, expensive thing for the city, and one of the linchpins for both the Eagle Lake racetrack and for the Rice County racetrack. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Aaron.
Hi, Jackie Broyne, 105 Haven Heights Court. I just have a question. I don't know how many of you drove down the area of Mill Street in front of the Fairgrounds to get here tonight, but as you'll notice, the road is not in great shape. And with the increased traffic that is going to be experienced if the racing continues, who's going to be responsible where the Fairgrounds doesn't pay any taxes? Does that mean, or the Fair Board doesn't pay taxes, does that mean the residents that we're going to be responsible for the upkeep so that the fairgrounds or the Fair Board Fairgrounds can keep the racing going?
Can I get your first name again?
Jackie.
Jackie, thank you. Anybody else?
Brian Douglas, 1124 Minnesota Street West. We are directly across from this racetrack. I don't care what decibels they have. I don't care what it is. I can hear them mowing their lawn from our backyard. This is going on this long is ridiculous. The other thing that I'm looking at is if it is going to go on this long, I would like to see much more transparency for us, the citizens, as to what's happening instead of finding it out in the newspaper, finding out later what's going on. I think that as a council, you should be able to put in something that says, oh, by the way, we have this.
We're not a council. We're the planning commission.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And just for reference, I found out in the paper just like you guys did. Planning commission finds out just like you guys do.
So no one knows ahead of time when all this stuff comes down?
I wasn't told anything. I found it out in the paper, and I get my packet on Friday, so.
And that's what I'm trying to bring up. Does that make sense? I mean, somebody must know what's going on way before 24 to 48 hours. That's what I'm trying to get, is we need more transparency, especially for the public, that really isn't for this racetrack. And I'm hoping somebody will get that for us if we're going to keep this going on for the next year or two or whatever it is. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Brian.
Hi, Jim Hoffman, 917 Park Street West. I'll be pretty short. My thoughts and opinions would be to deny this proposed change. I don't know, I would entertain the idea for amending any part of the city code for this proposed change. It should be left as it is, urban reserve and R2 single-family residential. One day we'll need additional residential property. That's what urban reserve is. We should leave it alone, and that way when it comes down the road, we will not have to try and rezone. We need and will continue to need residential property in the city if we ever plan on growing responsibly. This proposal will only give the Fair Board more ordinances to ignore. Like I spoke to at the last city council meeting, we don't seem to enforce any of the ordinances we have now. Why would we add more ordinances to be ignored? The city chose to ignore the noise ordinance all summer long. All citizens in the city deserve the same level of peace and quiet, whether you live in Cedar Hills, Larkspur Drive, or on the west side. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Ann Anderson, 419 East Water Street. I live right by the East Side Park. I keep hearing that the only problem is this loud 600 whatever race. I could hear every single race, 6 o'clock till 10:45, whenever they ended. I could hear the announcer announce every race. I have two neighbors on both sides of me, 76-year-old widows. They both have hard of hearing. They could both hear the races inside their houses with the windows closed. And on these beautiful summer nights, it's not fair that we can't be outside in our yards, enjoying our yards. And I can hear every race, not just the loudest one. There is one that's the worst by far, but I could hear every race. And we're on East Water Street, directly, east of the Fairgrounds. I think the sound travels through the valley. And if my neighbors that are both hard of hearing, one wears a cochlear implant, she can hear it. We're not imagining it, it's real, because it keeps saying, oh, it's not that bothersome, it can't be that loud, so that's my only comment.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the?
Al Johnson, 700 block of Minnesota Street West. I did last races, I did a decibel readings up there, and we don't live next to the fairgrounds. We're about a third of a mile approximately from the noise track, I call it. And the decimal reading was over 90. And the lower end of the race, I'm assuming when they went around the track, it dropped down to about 85. And the medium reading on my phone, and I didn't cover up the mic like some people did, was 87 average, but it was over 90. And you can look that up and see. And that was, I believe, that was about 7:30, so I don't know what size CCs are running at that time. And it's not towards the end of the race time, but I'm assuming as the race goes on, the larger carts go. And I just cut it off right there at that time. And that's all I have to say is I did a decibel reading off our deck, and I didn't cover the mic, so it was a clear reading on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Anybody else wishing to address the public hearing? Second call. Anybody else wishing to address the public hearing? Third and final call. Anybody wishing to address the public hearing? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. All right. Well, I'll be the first to start my rant. So I'm going to be perfectly honest with everyone here. It looks like a 50-50 split of who's going to get mad at me and who's going to be happy with me. This whole thing, we've been spending time, the city attorney, our staff, Zach, Neil, we're amending this whole shooting match, not based on pretty much anything else, but the racing, the racetrack. We're trying to amend the codes. Everything's been working good for, I don't know, how many years are you guys bragging that the fair's been in? 109. Going, and, and so, like I said, a lot of time and money has already been spent. I'm just against any engine-powered racing. I just am. It affects the quality of life of residents. They've pretty much voiced their opinion many times to me. They can't even enjoy their own property on weekends. I mean, if they have outdoor events, there's noise coming from, and yep, the races are only 2 minutes or whatever. It's affecting their life on their own property. I heard somebody say that the whiners will just have to get used to it, get used to the noise. I really took offense at that. So people residents should adjust their grad parties or their outside parties depending on the race weekend, what's going on there. Everybody's talking about, Alan, you brought up too, decibels. Decibels don't mean anything to me. Noise is a nuisance, you know, and if it just is. If it's within a certain decibel range, it's still a nuisance. That's just how it is. This limiting CCs of the engine, I think any of you engine builders, small engine builders, know that that's crapola. We used to race 250 cc snowmobile engines, and you couldn't hear yourself talk for the next day and a half because they were so noisy. So restricting CCs, I think that's not a real big deal either. Rant over.
So what was your bottom line, Steve?
My bottom line is I can't foresee approving anything that includes engine-powered racing of any kind, because Ferland addressed that he wants to expand it to 12 months, and somebody mentioned that maybe that's going to start the snowmobiles too. So that's all I have to say.
I just want to go back a second. It seemed like people were surprised that we get our packet on Friday. I guess I just want to talk about that whole process. So I think, and you guys can correct me, according to city law or state law maybe, we have to advertise what's happening so the public's aware of it. And then Zach obviously has to do his due diligence and prepare a packet for us. So it takes time to get these materials together. So you do a very good job. I wasn't trying to throw anybody under the bus. Sorry. But I do want to start out here, you know, I agree with everything Steve just said. They have the right to enjoy their property. I've been kind of on that train since day one. And at the same token, I do not want the fair has operated for 109 years just fine within city limits. I want no business being your big brother and telling you what you can and can't do every time you change something up. And that's exactly what this is. I think it's a bad idea for everybody involved to rezone to a fair zone. It's just, there's too much in here. You already said it. It just doesn't make sense. It's inconsistent. Not everything's defined. And then on top of it, the next time you want something, we got to approve it, disprove it. I'm not there yet. I don't think, I'm against the racing, and I don't want to approve anything with racing in it. That's just where I sit. And I guess just furthermore too, just one more thing. part of this too is our city comprehensive plan. And in the language that I see, whether or not we approve this with racing or approve it without racing, whatever, it says we should be following our city comprehensive plan. And we have residents out there, part of their well-being is part of that comprehensive plan. And I think it's our job up here to make sure that we're not allowing something that their quality of life is affected, so. Done.
I'll go next. I fundamentally agree on all of those counts. The thing that I'm gonna disagree with is I feel like we need to change the zone. I like the idea of coming up with a fair zone, so that, because it doesn't fit where it is, you know, it's half residential and half urban reserve. It doesn't, there's nothing there that seems to fit. Now, this is very comprehensive, that has a lot of stuff in it that may or may not be needed. I agree. I don't think the racetrack is a good idea. I feel like trying to corral this with times and CCs isn't probably going to work. And it goes back to the people that have to deal with the noise, and that they, like Steve said, if you can't enjoy where you live, there's a problem. But I do agree that that there should be a zoning amendment to deal with the fair. Maybe not to this degree, but I still need to, or I still think something needs to happen in that regard.
Yeah. Do you have anything? Well, I think it sounds like a lot of fun, but it's not a lot of fun when it affects the community that supports the Cannon Valley Fair. I would say it's the board's fault. The board needs to, in my opinion, review their mission statement. What is their purpose? To find ways to exist within the community. If the board, and it sounds like they're ready to say, oh, we'll never survive if we don't have this, I would say then the board has an issue. And that issue is affecting the community. So they need to review their mission statement and their priorities to fit within the community's requests. And I think it's pretty obvious what the community is saying. And I know it's hard to make those kinds of changes in a board, because there may be some really hardcore racing fans in there, and I can certainly understand that, but it's on them. It's very much on the fair board, and we need to. That's my opinion. They need to really look at how they want to exist and survive. But they have to work within the community, because that's where it all is. It's all about the community. So they're the people that pay the taxes. They're the people that deserve to have a good quality of life. And the board has to accept that that's okay. That's going to be a hard thing for you to do, but you may have to do that. That's my opinion.
Oh, well said.
Thank you.
And I've come full circle on this whole issue. As one who has loved the fair all my life, I mean, 10 years I took my cows and took exhibits for 4-H, and it has a special place in my heart. Fair. And somehow this issue became not about the Cannon Valley Fair that we know and a lot of us love, but about a racetrack. And a racetrack is nowhere in our comprehensive plan. There was nowhere that the city came out and said officially, golly gee, we want a racetrack, let's go build one. And so I guess I've come to the understanding that, and I think Bruce, you said it well, you know, the Fair Board needs to look at who they are and realize that what we support is the Fair Board as the fair. We don't necessarily want to jump up and down and say, golly gee, we want a racetrack. And so I am not in favor of this amendment. You know, maybe it should all be urban reserve, but at this point, I see no reason for this kind of an amendment. And I see, and my recommendation to the city council and to the staff would be to work on, at this point, closing down the racetrack and having the fair go back to being the fair.
Any other comments? If there are no comments, I'm going to introduce resolution 2024-18, denying the ordinance.
Second.
Motion by Gesme, second by Johnson. To pass resolution 2024-18, denying denial of the ordinance. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, is there anything else to come before the board tonight? One thing I want to say is thank you, Mr. Bruce Hema, for, we've been doing the math. We're not sure on the years, but you said
3 mayors.
you're three mayors into it, so we really appreciate your service to the city.
Well,
And,
I've really
we know you
learned
haven't.
a lot and appreciate a lot, but maybe is someone else that can, I'm backing off and retiring from this, and I have some other interests that I'm into, so, but for anyone that thinks about public service, you know, we don't get paid, it's just our time.
You don't?
It is, no, you don't. Do you guys get paid?
Here, Steve.
But it's
Your
really,
pay.
it's really a way to try to give back to the community and try to help. And what I've learned is that it's important to weed out some things. We've certainly had some long and interesting discussions in this room, so I've enjoyed it very much, and I feel like I have given back. So,
Thanks
thank
again.
you.
Thank you.
Do I get to keep my nameplate?
Yep,
Absolutely.
that's your payment.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that was it.
Zach, you have anything further?
Okay.
Neil, is it? Yeah.
What's his name?
We're going to South Dakota together, aren't we? Yeah. Okay.
John Rodermacher, he's our new city administrator.
Welcome.
It's his first day. First day. Feet to the fire.
Yep. I've seen 3 of those too, haven't I?
Yeah, probably.
Anything? Okay. Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Nobach, second by Fox to adjourn. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.